everybody. This is Dana Lopez, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Inn, and this is In Gratitude. We use this platform to highlight some really wonderful supporters of the Inn. And today, this is a very interesting episode. I actually think that I might chalk this up under I think I've now seen it all, but I'll let you decide. First, before I do that, I do want to welcome my guests for today, Norman Egan and Brian Calder. Hi, Norman. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hey,
now, hi. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm just so excited about the story. Now, the reason why I'm chalking this up under things I think I've seen it all is because I don't know about in the history of the Inn, if we've ever seen a supporter give us a donation because of a sumo wrestling match, but that's exactly what happened here. And, hey, listen, I haven't been here forever. The Inn has been around for nearly 40 years. It'll be 40 years in 2023, but definitely in the 9 years that I've been here, I haven't seen this happen, but it indeed did happen. So I'll just set it up for everybody. Norman, Brian, you guys work for a company called Presidio. Norman, why don't you tell me a little bit about the company?
Thanks, Dana. Presidio is a solutions integrator, technology company. We help organizations with their technical needs, if you will. And I've been with Presidio since 2007. Okay.
And Brian, how long have you been with Presidio?
Yep. So I've been with Presidio now, actually just hit my 6-year mark. And I run the sales organization out of New England. So, and it's great to be there with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so Presidio was having an expo in Florida. And just by the way, this didn't come out of nowhere. Norman, your wife, the lovely Denise Egan, is a volunteer at the Mary Brennan Inn Soup Kitchen. And one day I just happened to be walking around doing what I do. And she approached me and said, my husband is doing a sumo wrestling match tonight, and proceeds are going to come to the Inn, and you're going to get what I think is a pretty big donation. And I was like, wait, what? A sumo wrestling match? So what was the process there? How did that happen?
Then it's a very long story that stemmed from a very simple misunderstanding between Brian and I. So we were at a company meeting up in Woburn, Massachusetts about a year ago. And we had a slight misunderstanding, as I said, about who was driving somebody where. And we both, Brian and I, have a third wheel in this equation by the name of Vince Trauma. And Vince instigated this whole thing. He developed this animosity between Brian and I. And he kept pushing it along to the point when sometime around June, we were looking at our annual sales kickoff in September. And Vince said, that's it. I've had it with you two. You're going to get into a ring. You're going to battle this out like men. And that will be the end of it, he said. So it manifested from there. We decided we'd make it as a sumo wrestling contest. You probably can't see on the video right now, but I give up a couple of inches in height and a couple of pounds of muscle to Brian. So it was a bit of a mismatch right from the very start. So the suits were going to help me stay in the game, if you will.
Yeah, because I mean, one does not do a sumo wrestling match in regular clothing. One does it in full sumo wrestling costume. Brian, what was that like?
Interesting to say the least. I tried the suit. So we got the sumo suits delivered a day before the event. So I tried to go and put the sumo suit on in my room to see, okay, what is this actually going to feel like? You can't do it by yourself. So I had to call the aforementioned Vincent Trauma to come into my room and help me. And the laughter that proceeded to take place for the next 20 minutes was nothing I'd ever heard before. We were dying laughing, obviously. And the other piece of the puzzle is, as hard as it is to get the suit on and do it the right way, it's a lot more difficult to get up. So I had to practice getting up off of the ground without using a bed or a chair or anything like that, because it was a struggle.
Because you kind of just, if you fall down, which, by the way, we do have some video of, a little, dead roach thing happening. I can only imagine. So, that's funny. I didn't realize you got the suit the day before. All this time I'm thinking you've been training in the suit, but no, that wasn't the case.
No,
Okay, so this
was
is why
definitely
we
not the
have
case.
these things, so we can
Yep.
get the details that we need. Now,
then I should add, in the spirit of competition, Brian withheld my suit from me. So the first time I got in the suit was actually at the event.
oh my goodness. So you didn't even get to try it before.
I didn't even get to try it on.
I just want to talk a little bit about how it became a charity event. So, which is where we come in as the in. So, Norman, Denise is a volunteer. She, I guess when you decided to, fight not to the death, but when you decided to battle each other at this expo, you decided to do something good and have something good come out of it. So tell me about that, how that happened with both of you. And I know that we are not the only recipients of this, which is amazing because you were able to give to two worthy organizations. So Norman, why don't you tell me a little bit about how it became giving back?
Yeah, so then I do think we've got a bit of a culture at Presidio of giving back. And actually last year, Brian and I and Vince, we did a fundraising event for Covenant House, where we slept out one night to raise money for Covenant House. And so when we were talking about doing the sumo match, we said, look, it's fun and everything, but there's got to be a purpose behind it. So we both said, look, wouldn't it be great if we could raise, a very small amount of money is what we thought we would do at the start, if we could raise it for charity. And you mentioned Denise. Denise volunteers every Friday, and every Friday night at dinner, Denise just relives the day's events and tells me about the people she met and what was going on. So I just said to Brian and Vince, look, if we could raise some money for charity, I'd love to do it for the inn. Denise was ecstatic when I said it. She got so excited about it. And it started from there. And then Brian, I'll let you talk about your charity.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, Dana, when this first started, it was just kind of this muddled idea, if you will. And we had a lot of fun with it even prior to the sumo event. But I think once the sumo event started to take shape, we were thinking, okay, we'll just do it as a New England type event. And we knew we'd raise some decent money doing it that way. But the bigger piece then kind of fell into place when we said, well, we've got a lot of generous people here at Presidio. Presidio is a culture of giving back to the community. Why don't we kind of take this on a national stage? And we were afforded the ability to do it because we did have what Norm mentioned earlier was our annual sales or our annual kickoff. So when that kind of came to mind, it was like, okay, we could actually really get some solid support around this. How do we make this and kind of codify the idea and formulate it? And I think, with myself and Norman and Vince putting our heads together, we realized, wow, this really could have some traction. So when Norman picked the inn as his choice from a charitable donation, I certainly didn't have to think long and hard about kind of where I was going with it. We've given and been supported by a gentleman here by the name of Jamie McGarry, who works for a partner of ours. Mm-hmm. And Jamie and his family had to deal with probably one of the worst tragedies a family could deal with one of their children passing away due to cancer. So that was a couple of years back. We've obviously supported Jamie all the way up and through, but I said, this could be a really nice way of giving a sizable donation to the Jimmy Fund on behalf of Kyla, his daughter. So the support and what this generated was, I think I could speak for Norm, a lot more than what we had originally thought was going to be the case. But it ended up being just an incredible amount of money to two wonderful charities.
Yeah, and it did. And you're talking about decent money. And listen, as I've learned by working for a charitable organization, every single cent really does count. But it has to be said that this was more than a decent amount. You guys, through this whole process, and this was completely done online, right? You went through, you sort of like went through your networks on LinkedIn, created a donation page, and raised over $3,300
Yeah.
which is just unbelievable. And I was so impressed. And when I was talking to Denise that day in the soup kitchen and she was telling me about this, first of all, I couldn't even believe it. And I was like, she showed me that on that day, and it hadn't even happened yet. She
Right.
showed me the thermometer. I don't remember what your goal was, but you had already surpassed it and the event hadn't even started, which was unbelievable. The amount of buzz you created, the amount of excitement, and, it just sounds like so much fun. And, the topping and the icing on the cake was that you were very personally connected to both charities, which is so incredibly amazing, and I think that's probably what touched people the most, besides the fact that they really needed to see you get into those sumo suits and duke it out.
Yes.
Was that your personal connection to the charities,
Yeah, Dana. So the one thing so the dollar amount is fantastic. Obviously, the $33,000 that you mentioned. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention two other things. Number one, this doesn't come together, right? So Vince was a huge piece of the puzzle here in terms of setting the donation page up, getting it out, publicizing it. What he did around the event itself was just craziness, and just brought a lot of support to it. So that's one piece. The other thing is, of the 33,000, we had like 300 different people donate
Amazing.
to make up the $33,000. It wasn't like we've got a one lump sum donation from some. 300 people were generous enough to give to these two charities, which a lot of people didn't know much about prior to this event. So that's a pretty cool number in terms of how we it was a grassroots effort to build the dollars that we built.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and that's the beauty of this kind of crowdfunding and digital fundraising, that I'm not going to say it was easy, because obviously a lot of thought and care and work went into it. But when it comes down to it, somewhat smaller donations from a larger amount of people makes a huge difference. And that's important to say, right? Because it was, you can make a difference, although you're always making a difference, but you can make a big difference with what you might not feel is a whole lot of money. And so that's why, we have to say that it doesn't take, you don't have to be a millionaire to give back, right?
Right.
So, so that's the heartwarming part of this story. Now, leading up to the event, and I went back and stalked you guys a little bit, and I looked at some of your LinkedIn profiles and some of the videos. Now, this wasn't always like, everybody wasn't always buddy the whole time, right? We had a little trash talk going on. Well, who started it? I have an idea, but
Brian.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I can probably answer that. So I have two things, Dan, and I'll be quick because I certainly want to get Norman's take on it. So I have a propensity to run my mouth, and that's very well known, and I'm not shy about that. But what I will say is, Norman has this incredible ability to, no matter what the situation may or may not be. And just so we're clear, I've only known Norman for about 16 months of my life. I'm 42 years old. So there's not a lot of experience, but what I have come to know is Norman has an incredible ability to, what I would call, play the victim, no matter what the situation may be, Dana. So when you have a person who likes to chatter like myself, and then you have another person that likes to play the victim, you sometimes run into a situation where you have a sumo event for charity.
Apparently, I mean, this might be the way that we resolve conflict from here on out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Norman? What do you think about what? I mean, I don't want to get this started again. The match is over.
The match is over, and it's absolutely fair what Brian said. Although in this instance, it was justified. No, it was a lot of acting. Brian and I get on great. We're really good friends, and we just played it up to get people's interest, and we actually did. We ended up with, believe it or not, the company divided themselves between Team Egan and Team Calder, and there was t-shirts. People were walking around the conference in a Team Calder shirt or a Team Egan shirt. We've never seen anything like it. It's within the company. We went viral. There's no doubt about that. And
that is amazing.
Again, and as much fun as that was, and it's what you said earlier, Dana, the fact that people didn't know about the inn beforehand. I'm on Long Island, and there's a lot of people in Presidio who work in Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
So many people said, "Oh, we didn't know about it. It's great." They're reading up with it, and then one or two people, actually, the head of our HR actually replied and said that she's familiar, that she had volunteered with the Inn in the past as well. So there was a connection there for that too. So.
Look at that. That's amazing. I can't, I'm having so much fun talking to you about it. I can only imagine what it was like leading up to it and to actually be there. And, just the fact that the entire company sort of rallied around either one of you was nice. A little birdie did tell me also that the idea behind it, that people were sort of told that only one of the charities was going to get. Is this information that we're not supposed to? No, okay.
No.
So
it started that way.
Yeah,
There was
it started out that it was like
conversation.
right. All of the money was going to go to just one single charity, and what happened?
Yeah, I don't. So when that kind of was bounded about, but I think when we realized, wait a second, we've got two really rock solid charities here. And let's be honest, I mean, Norm and myself and certainly Vince included, I mean, we tried to publicize this as much as possible to not to take away from one and potentially not give. That wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense. We thought this was the most fair and equitable a way to do this. And I think we kind of eliminated the whole, hey, winner take all thing pretty quickly.
Yeah. And because you raised so much, each charity, I mean, just, the total for the Inn was over $16,000, which is just incredible. And the event was one night. I know that you had been collecting donations before then, but it really is just amazing.
I think, Brian, when we set a target, maybe a month before, we looked at each other and said, do you think we could get to $5,000?
Yeah.
I think we might be able to get to 5, and then it became 10, and then we kept up in it. But as you can tell from my accent, I'm from Ireland originally, and Presidio had actually acquired an Irish company out of Dublin, and it was their first time coming to the US, the employees from the Dublin company coming to the US for a Presidio event. And as you can imagine, they were a little bit uptight. They were a little bit worried, what's this going to be like? We're meeting with our CEO. It's the first time we're representing. And they walked into this madness of, wait a minute, what do you mean there's a sumo res? So they bought into it like anything I've never seen. They had Irish flags. The Irish flag is a green, white, and orange. Mm-hmm. So they started wearing, somebody would wear a green t-shirt, somebody would wear a white t-shirt, somebody would wear an orange t-shirt.
Did you paint their faces? I mean, did we go full out here or what?
That was the only thing they didn't do. There's a famous, the Irish soccer team, every time they play a match, the Irish fans sing this chant that's just ole, ole, ole repeated. But they were doing that in the conference center when Brian said, like, the energy, you came out and I literally felt like I was a professional athlete, that I was coming in like Mike Tyson going into Madison Square Garden or something. It's as much fun as I've ever had at a corporate event, no doubt about it.
Amazing. It became an international corporate event, apparently.
There you go.
So that's incredible. Now there was, on paper, a champion and someone who was defeated. Now, Norman, what happened?
Dana, if you can't see us, if you see us standing side by side, as you know, I would not have been anybody's favorite to win this. So that video that I think you mentioned where I did manage to knock Brian down, we had in sumo, you got to knock the person down or get him out of the ring. So in us doing that, you get 1 point for knocking your opponent down or getting him out of the ring. Mm-hmm. And it was first to 5. And going in there, I'm not going to lie to you, I thought it was going to be 5-0 to Brian. Like, I did not see myself being able to get him out of the ring. And there's one move where I went left and moved right, and Brian bought it. And that was my win right there. After that, it didn't matter what happened.
Look at that. How did that feel, Brian, to be the champion?
It felt wonderful, but I will say this, and I was just with my CEO a couple of days ago. What brought the most amount of joy was obviously the charity. The second was just the amount of the people, and like I mentioned, the energy and everybody kind of getting together. The third was every single time that I was in the ring and turned around, the first 2 people that I saw were my CEO, Bob Cagnazzi, and my COO, Dave Hart. And I'm telling you, Dana, and I mean this sincerely, they were as into it as anybody, if not more, than the entire room combined. what they were saying and what they were doing and everything that went along just brought so much joy to me to know these guys not only supported the event, but were just as into it as anybody else. And that was a pretty cool feeling as well. Obviously, winning was fantastic, and you know, you get all the accolades when you win. I do think that if Vegas had odds set on this, they probably would have taken them off the board pretty quickly when they saw the bets rolling in. But needless to say, Norm was incredibly formidable. I think Norm knew, and I said this to him, I think Norm knew he was in trouble when he ran at me to start the match and he hit me with everything. And I think I took a half a step back and realized, uh-oh, I might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Oh my goodness.
It was literally like hitting a wall. I just bounced off and I said, oh boy, this is going to be quick.
That's great. That's great. Well, obviously, there are no losers here, right? Like everybody's a winner. You guys are both winners. The charities, obviously, you know, I can only speak for us at the end, but I'm sure that Brian, your charity also was deeply appreciative of your generosity and the creativity, quite frankly, because, you know, I think that people sort of need to know that something that you do good for somebody else can come out of so much fun and so much joy. And hopefully, and well, I do know for sure that the money that was raised and the programs that it'll go to and the people's lives that it will literally change, that joy is just going to keep continuing to spread. So I just want to thank you both for being such amazing sports and being the most professional sumo wrestlers I've personally ever met. And I have one last question for you. Will there be a rematch?
Norm, I'll let you start, buddy.
Well, honestly, everybody who was at the event has asked us to do a rematch next year, and we somebody else can take on Brian Calder next year. I've one and done for me. I'm not getting back into the ring with Brian.
That's fair. Are you going to defend your title, Brian, or are you just going to stick with Norm?
Bob Cagnazzi, as I mentioned, the CEO said it, I think, about as best as you can say it. You can't or you don't want to remake The Godfather. I think this was the reason it was so great, Dana, in all honesty, was because of the fact that it came from this completely tiny, meaningless situation that just was exacerbated and exaggerated beyond belief.
Meaningless for some, not for others.
Yeah, right.
No.
And the support and then the organic grassroots effort of the whole thing. I know that sounds hyperbolic and a little bit dramatic, but it just came from nothing. And the fact that it was so successful and brought so many people together, and as you mentioned, touched the lives of a lot of different people that are outside the purview of what Presidio does or Norm and I do or interact with on a day-to-day basis. I don't know that you can recreate something like that generically. It's got to be organic, and that's when the best stuff usually happens, right? So to answer your question in a long-winded way, I think I'm retiring at 1-0. I'll never shut the door completely, but that's where my head is at right now.
Okay, so we're keeping it open. I like that. The mystery is still there, but for the in the meantime, you know, just on behalf of the Inn and our organization, I'd like to thank both of you, the executives and everybody involved over at Presidio, for being such amazing sports, for backing this in such a way that and how successful it was is just unbelievable. You know, the message we're going out with is it can be fun and it can also do good. So, you know, you can't get any better of an example than what you guys did with this event. So, and of course, not to be forgotten, the 300 plus people that made their donations, whatever the amount was, you know, on behalf of the Inn, thank you so much. It is so greatly appreciated for the guests that we serve. You know, with the Inn, we never show the guests that we serve on things like this, video, photos, that kind of thing. So we sort of have to speak for them in a way. But what I do know is when you go to the soup kitchen, and Norm, I'm sure you've heard this from your wife, it is you feel the gratefulness that comes from the guests. They are so they're very grateful to receive what they do. They're very grateful to the Inn, but they are aware that there are you know, an army of supporters that are behind us, that care about people. So, you know, and apparently two, you know, recently retired sumo wrestlers. So,
Yeah.
so I just want to thank you so much. And that's okay. No rematch necessary, but the way it did happen and how it did happen is just so amazing. So just want to thank you both for participating, for talking to me. I was dying to have this conversation just to see, you know, how it all went down.
And then,
Thank you, Dana.
we were delighted to do it, and thank you to the Inn as well for participating and putting something like this on today as well. And it was just end to end, it was just an absolute pleasure, and we're glad we were able to help in any way at all.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you both so much. You know, maybe we'll cross paths again soon, but if there is a rematch, I really would like to be invited. I just want to put it out there. You know, I'd like to be in person this time, but you know, and it doesn't have to be you guys.
And if there is a rematch, you have to pick sides, and that's going to be a problem.
We'll see what happens. All right.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Dana.
you so much. Have a
Thank you,
great
Dana.
day. Thanks.
Thanks all.
Take care.